Ladies and
Hey, we're
gentlemen,
here.
boys and girls, and children of all ages, with the power of the internet and StreamYard, Forward United proudly brings to you the Storm Gang podcast with Pierce, with those eyes so piercing blue, Rob Chin, the heartthrob that makes daughters lock up their mother so they have a better shot with him, and Kaylee, who is a very special one-time guest, or as many times as she wants to come on. It all just depends on whatever she wants to do, but she's always welcome. And I, of course, am Jason Elia. And tonight we are going to talk about everything from obscure Russian literature poetry all the way to the
The
commander and
hamburgers.
the mech hammer. That works.
Obscure Russian poetry, huh?
Yeah.
What, are you reading like some random Russian poetry these days?
You just run out of things on Kindle, man.
Yeah, I feel it. It's funny.
But yeah, on that note, we do have a special guest. Kaylee was with us out in Storm Lake, hence the name Storm Gang, and will be joining us for this episode. So good to see you, Kaylee.
Yes.
She has the best
You-
feed.
You might want
Even
to
better feed
unmute
than
your
like
mic whenever you
the
talk.
Oh yeah, she's muted. Does she know that she's muted?
Hey
Yeah, just stay
everyone.
unmuted and talk.
It's better this way. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's good to see you.
It's always
See
good to
you.
see you.
And so for those who are tuning in for the first time, and who are just learning about who Kaylee is, Kaylee, tell the world a little bit about yourself. Where are you right now? What inspires you to do what you do?
Oh, lots of questions.
Yes, we're here for the interview process.
I met this crew up in Iowa back in January of this year when I was in between jobs. But when I wasn't doing that, I was an engineer, so I've been working in the biomedical engineering sector for about 3 years now. I studied chemical engineering before that. So I accepted a job back in April up in Boulder, Colorado as a packaging engineer. So yeah, working as a consultant for a big company named Medtronic. So I haven't actually been there very much. I've been working remotely for the last 2 months. But I've been enjoying it a lot.
Nice. Yeah, because I haven't met you, so I am like meeting you right now for the first time. These lovely gentlemen here have not just met you, but they've worked with you, so it's it's a little different. I was there with them beforehand, so missed out on the whole action in January in Storm Lake.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah,
So
you were both all stars while you were out there. It was great to knock on doors by your side, for sure. It was a good time. Anybody watching?
Pierce and Jason, I'll say,
2024. Go knock on doors in Iowa. It's a good time.
Fun
I
times,
got
very
dropped
fun
off in this
times.
like small little town together, and we like walked the entire thing like through negative 10-degree weather until we found a library to like hang out in and warm up in. And then we ended up turning the lovely Republican librarian into a precinct captain.
Oh, nice.
Which was pretty cool.
She was already a little bit Yang Gang before
Yeah.
Jason wooed her, but
It was
we
all
were
Kaylee,
just casually dropping a book off at the library.
Yeah.
Good old dropping the books tactic.
Dropping an Andrew Yang book off.
Nice.
Getting warm.
Yeah. Did you guys
extremities again?
Speaking of Andrew Yang, did you guys read? So Andrew Yang recently came out with an op-ed piece that I think he posted on Medium that actually talked about kind of like the whole police and justice system structure and where the funding was being in place. And it was, so anyways, I recently read up on that, and I found it really interesting in terms of where all that money was being allocated. Like, we talk about police brutality, and that's a huge part of it. And then when he dug into the numbers of it, in terms of funding, in terms of where, how they get like militarized, I was like, whoa, I was like, very, very interesting. I need to find the article again, but when I do find it, I will post it.
Well, I think defunding is quite possibly like the wrong term to use as far as that goes.
Boom.
Oh, there we go. We got like 4 properties. Nice. Yeah. That was one.
Oh, we lost Kaylee.
No, Kaylee.
And it's only half of me. I gotta lean this way.
But anyways, so for those who are like tuning in and watching, definitely take a look at this article. Let us know what you guys think about it. I found it very interesting just because of like, oh, hey Kaylee, good to see you again.
She's back.
So-
Yeah. Technical issues. But yeah, the article was interesting. It's a pretty long read, but he just like dives into, for example, like reporting on from the police. Like the police as well as every police department is supposed to report on all instances and whether or not there's any injuries or other types of things that might come up in terms of like when they're on duty. So, and that's stated by law. Unfortunately, like not all of it gets reported, and there's no penalties for it either for not getting reported. And a good example of that is recently Breonna Taylor's statement has been released. Like the police statement has been released, and it said that during that incident, nobody was injured, which is very, very interesting. How they mentioned that nobody was injured, yet just somebody was just shot.
Not counting someone as dead.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, it confirmed like. So I read his article first, and then I saw like, literally yesterday or today, the statement on Breonna Taylor, and I was like, what? Like they really did not even report any of this. And I mean, it turns out that like they haven't been reporting this thing for years, and the fact that it's still happening is like it's crazy. So, whew.
For
A lot
anyone
of changes need to be made.
that doesn't know, Breonna Taylor was killed in Louisville, Kentucky, during a no-knock search warrant. That was the wrong address. The police were looking for someone that was not at that address. In fact, actually, the police already had the suspect they were looking for in custody. But anyway, they went to the wrong address without knocking, barged in, without uniforms on, and the occupant inside used his self-defense and Second Amendment rights to fire back on police, who he didn't know were police at the time. He just thought they were home intruders. His girlfriend was sleeping on the bed, and she was killed by the police gunfire during the encounter. So now everybody's brought up to speed on who Breonna Taylor is.
Yeah. So
Yeah, just still, the more you hear it, the more it just sounds insane what happened.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable, unacceptable.
yeah.
There's no reason. There's a long chain of things that should have stopped that from happening, and each one failed. To begin with, there's no reason for you to be executing a no-knock warrant not in uniform.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kaylee's gone.
So we'll see Kaylee come back.
Yeah, she'll come back. But I think the use of defunding the police is like a misused term. I think it should be demilitarize the police, like because the police like provide like a fundamental service and everything, to a degree and everything. They just need better training and so on.
Yeah.
And, definitely like they don't need, surplus military gear at all whatsoever. So
Yeah,
I just think we need to demilitarize and not necessarily defund, because if we defund, you then go to like neighborhood watches, I guess. I mean, and if you've ever lived in an HOA, the type of people that volunteer for neighborhood watch are not necessarily the type of people you want protecting you. I mean, you're going to have all the Karens out there, and I guarantee you within like 2 weeks, every single black man in America is going to be dead, along with every barista who accidentally used 2% gluten-free milk versus 1% gluten-free almond milk,
I mean, that's kind of what happened with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. Like he was a neighborhood watch.
Example of not why empowering the neighborhood watch is like a kind of a bad idea.
But at the same time, like there's still like a lot of communities that like they don't have much protection at all, and it's mainly like police just over policing those areas. Like they don't even have their own community like group to kind of like say anything like when the police come. So for example, like when there's say like a scuffle that happens and maybe somebody doesn't get killed but gets severely injured by the cops, right? Then when you make that statement, as was presented before, the cops, they make their statement and they could just say, oh, well, nobody got injured, right?
Yeah.
But if you have like either a committee or a few people that represent the community who are either there on the scene or who's like very well involved within the community, I don't think it hurts to have like, I don't know if like neighborhood watch.
Well, I mean,
would
like
be the
community
thing,
oversight, like inside the department, should be like very strong. Like there should be a different division of people that are hired separately from police officers that are on shift 24/7 to like look over anything, like any type of like event that occurs or anything that they should like be called to, just like a police officer would, to third hand observe and make sure the police are doing their jobs correctly and hold them accountable and everything.
I think
I mean, that's just like my belief in it and everything. But like, just getting rid of the police in general and expecting us all to live in a perfect utopian society is, very giverishy, and I don't think it's going to work.
I mean, I don't think I think I think defunding the police definitely has a different type of connotation to it, but I don't necessarily think that like it means we just don't give any money to the police. Like I don't think it's like that. Like I mean, the police is the police. They've already at this point like it has employed so many people. Like it has a whole system in place, and is there to work along the justice system and lawyers and prosecutors and everybody. So it's hard to say like defund the police. However, in New York City, the NYPD has $5 billion. They get $5 billion worth of funding from NYPD, and there's $0 going into stuff like mental health. So I wouldn't necessarily say like maybe defunding is the wrong word. However, I think there needs to be a redistribution.
Kind of like demilitarizing and getting rid of like certain things. Like you don't need like limit like this purchase of like surplus military gear to only to like only SWAT teams and stuff. Like I don't think every single police officer needs like full body armor, and like access to like automatic weapons. But I also don't think every single cop should carry a gun. So I think there should be certain unarmed officers and everything that handle certain situations, and that the gun might just might escalate like domestic incidences and so on and so forth. Them showing up with the gun might escalate it.
Yeah,
versus
there's definitely that.
Actually helping them. So like having a certain sect that's like unarmed that handles like smaller calls and everything, and then there are certain sect of police that I think probably should have guns. And I think to work your way up to owning like being an officer with a gun should be like a process. That way
it is a
like,
big
learn
responsibility.
The technique how to like protect and serve without a gun first, and then you work your way up to being an armed officer. That way you have all that experiences, ways to handle situations without a gun or without the threat of a gun.
I think that's an interesting take on like how to like help with that right now. I think that could be an option for sure.
Yeah.
Like right now,
Overwatch, like a completely different sect of department that's just civilians that go out on like certain calls and stuff to make sure police are doing their job, and limiting the amount of military surplus that the police can buy, and then unarming half of the police force.
I think also training comes to a big play too, because
better background checks, better like psychological evaluations, more frequent psychological evaluations.
Well, also because they spend, I read somewhere is like they spend over 50 hours training with weapons and with guns and combat, but they only spend about 8 hours of their training learning de-escalation. Yeah. So when you and there's it's not like all cops are bad. There's a lot of good cops out there who make an oath and they believe a promise to. And they believe in the oath, and they're here to protect the people. However, I don't think enough emphasis is placed on training our police officers on de-escalation. Yeah. I think if you only have 8 hours of de-escalation compared to 50 hours worth of like guns and like combat training, then I don't think it'll hurt to have a couple more hours of de-escalation and like learning about that, and then as you said too, having like a different community, like a different sector that deals with like different situations. So like it's not like cops who have guns are just showing up at like the smallest things like birthday party or something like. And
for a noise complaint, do you really need a cop with a gun to show up at a noise complaint? Just to tell them to turn the music down.
It's insane. Like people shouldn't have to. First of all, the cops shouldn't have to deal with that. Like, it's such a waste of time for the cops, So definitely having
that right there would you would have to assume that every human being cared about their like surrounding neighbors and wouldn't like crank the music like loud enough to disturb their neighbors, but
Hmm.
you know, it's just standard what we live in, and it's just like a service that in a way cops provide. So
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things that are worth noting in everything that you said. Police are expected to be prepared for any emergency, right? So
Mhm.
even if, say, the incident that they're called onto is something that you would anticipate at least to be fairly peaceful and non-confrontational, non-violent, right? It's possible that while there they would encounter something that is, or have to very quickly go from that place to a place that is unsafe and violent, right? So they are supposed to be prepared. It's one of the primary reasons why anybody owns or carries a firearm in the first place, to be prepared, right? Me, myself, I was in the military, but I do not carry a firearm with me on my day-to-day life because that's not necessary. I live in a very peaceful neighborhood. I go to very peaceful places. My risk is increased if I were to carry a firearm. But that is because I'm very fortunate to enjoy that, that privilege and that safety and that life. That is not the circumstance for everyone. And police are the people that are going towards danger rather than away from danger. So
Mhm.
when you say, hey, let's disarm all the police, it's a very blanket statement that I think is asking for trouble. And political backlash would happen the exact opposite once someone gets killed in the line of duty and didn't have a weapon, but you see their body cam, for example, and it's like, oh, they could have defended themselves if they did have one. You're just asking for whiplash problem in the other direction. I think
that's
it's
why I said half. So
yeah. Well, which half, right? But on that note, I think it's worth noting, like, we're asking our police to do a whole lot, and quite frankly, it's an incredibly highly skilled job with multiple different skill sets that are often not related to each other, right? We expect officers to know the law. We expect officers to be polite and courteous. We expect officers to also be strong and at times, quite frankly, be forceful. We expect officers to not play favorites. We expect officers to enforce certain laws, but also we expect officers to use their proper discretion to de-escalate and actually let some people go off the hook, just use their discretion. Like, there's a whole lot of things, right? So I think one of the biggest things that we could do to help police help us is by actually specializing the different roles of police. So as an example, already a lot of cities have parking enforcement done by non-police, right? They have a specific parking enforcement, and a lot of people are going to rightfully not exactly be happy with them because their entire job is basically to ticket people. But traffic
ticket
enforcement,
you while you're in the car,
right? Yeah.
trying to move your car.
But traffic enforcement is an example. That is a whole specialization of police that doesn't have anything to do with responding to calls, right? They're completely unrelated. So that's one example. Someone, say, is having a mental crisis. In the FBI has full-time negotiators whose job is to respond to someone in mental crisis if it's a case that the FBI has been called to work. So I mean, it's probably a big deal. It's not your average day, but like,
Yeah, I'm about to say,
that's a specialty, right? That's a whole specialty.
Mhm.
So we're expecting our police to do a whole lot if larger police departments were able to specialize and divest and be like, all right, you are our traffic enforcement, you are our mental crisis responders, right? I think that would really, really help people. Rob, do you know which department you said received 50 hours of firearms training and 8 hours of mental health? Because police are a local issue, so what one department does might not be.
Very good question.
It's all right if you don't.
I don't have it right now. I don't have that information right now. It's from like
Yeah. It's all right. For sure, police need to be better at de-escalation. I think that's really the fundamental point of all of these protests. The fact that they are escalating when they shouldn't be. And especially when they escalating with Black people. which when you are someone authorized to use lethal force, escalation goes towards one direction, right?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Kaylee, you've been quiet. Do you have any thoughts on the topic? Let me bring you in.
No, I couldn't agree more with what you guys were saying, and talking about disarming police is an interesting strategy that I'm sure a lot of people probably find controversial, but honestly, having that weapon and carrying it, and being prepared for those situations is not necessarily a bad thing, but having that training to do that de-escalation and not have your first instinct be to reach for the weapon and be to reach for that trigger is really, I think, more important than anything. So,
actually, you know what? I'm gonna pull up a clip that I saw, and we'll talk about it in a sec. This will take a second, so y'all say hi.
How's it going, guys? What's up?
But like police, they need. It's a very, very stressful job, right? And when you start to see people as threats, you're going down a very, very dangerous path. And when you are police, anyone could potentially be a threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it depends. A lot of times you can make that person a threat.
Yeah. Don't wait for me. This might take a second.
So what's everyone's opinion? What's the perfect amount of cheese to like put on a burger? Like I'm like a fan of like one slice per like 8 ounces of meat. But like I was being told the other day that it would be like two slices of cheese like per like 8 ounces of meat. Like I'm like torn on this. Yeah, I feel
You're looking
like
at a Philly cheesesteak right here.
Well, Philly cheesesteak is completely different type of meat as well.
I'm sure, yeah.
Totally, completely different type of cheese as well. But
sorry, what?
That's a large burger. It's a half pound of beef.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not that much of a cheese person though, so one slice of cheese seems good.
Yeah, I mean, like I just heard the other day like that it should technically be 2 slices per 8 ounces, and I'm like, what is wrong with you, Food Network? Who broke you, Alton Brown? Who broke you?
I'll say like as long as I have my slice of cheese and a few pickles, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good with my burger.
Yeah, cheese, and pickles, grilled onions, raw onions.
Grilled onions, slice of tomato for a bit of juiciness.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of lettuce on a burger though. Lettuce should be left off all burgers, in my opinion.
So
and people who wrap them in lettuce, they should just like go to prison for like ever. And they'd be released. Like people who put lettuce on their hamburgers are like culinarily as evil as like Nazis. I said culinarily.
Culinarily. Very interesting analogy, I see. Yes, I see.
This is just like it does nothing for the flavor. All it does is detract from the flavor of the burger.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
It just gets really soggy. It's never a good thing.
Sorry, what?
You broke up a little bit.
I said let's just get service on a burger.
Wait, what?
We need to get over the internet.
Kaylee, you have turned into a potato. I hate to break it to you. Be wary of 5th graders looking for science projects.
There are 5th graders looking for science projects?
She turned into a potato. Use the potato as a battery.
True.
I thought it was funny.
Let's hit the rim shot for Pierce.
Right. Well,
that was the worst rim shot in the history of rim shots.
I'm not finding the clip that I wanted to find. But anyway, it showed a police officer at a traffic stop, black guy in the passenger seat, and he draws his weapon on him, and the recording starts with the weapon already drawn. At the points of the recording, he's being incredibly calm, but or not calm, but he's not being hostile. But he is asking the police officer to get the gun out of his face, right? Like he's feeling threatened. He's telling the officer in clear terms, "I'm feeling threatened that you have a weapon on me. Why do you have a weapon on me? I was trying to get my registration. I won't move until you tell me to move." Things like that. And he's offering every opportunity for the cop to de-escalate, and the cop won't take it. The cop is just saying, "We're going to wait here until we get backup," and he continues to have his firearm trained on. Not a taser, but his actual weapon, right?
Damn.
So there were several things wrong in that besides the police officer's refusal to de-escalate. But the thing that I took away from it was I would bet dollars to donuts that the police officer was actually suffering from PTSD. I'm not a mental health expert. I just spent 8 years in the military, but he, as far as I could tell, met all the check marks of someone that was suffering from PTSD, including perceiving threats where there aren't threats, being, extra combative and jumpy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, being afraid. It was clear to me that the officer was not like acting just out of racism of like, "Oh, hey, I don't like you." It was clear to me that the officer felt threatened, despite in the video there not really being a reason to be threatened. So
That's an interesting.
one thing honestly
which
we
is
really should look at is the mental health of officers, and
better and more frequent psychopaths,
a
like I was saying
healthy
in there earlier.
way to heal from, quite frankly, traumatizing things, because they're more likely to see trauma than your average. I want to say your average soldier, probably. I would say that your average police officer is more likely to encounter something traumatizing.
Is there any are there like mental health resources that the police department have? Like,
I mean, it's
They
going
do
to
have most police departments do have therapists that they keep employed and everything that are there for their officers if the officer asks for one. But it's also like a point of pride for like it is in the military, where a lot of like officers and military don't want to ask for help because they've always been trained to be self-sufficient and strong, and so on and so forth.
that is a big issue in itself too. Mental health and PTSD, like that's so real.
That's why, part of my thought process is, more frequent and, regular, psyche evals, make it standard for them to see a therapist every 3 months minimum. And if they go through something, they have to see a therapist on a continual basis for like a full year.
I definitely think there should be more resources put into helping police officers with mental health, because that's a big one. I wasn't even thinking about that until you mentioned it, and I was like, "Wait, that definitely has caused certain police officers to make irrational decisions."
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to remove the stigma around police officers actually being able to go and use these resources too. Because I mean, even if it's available, I'm sure the usage rate of it is a lot lower than it would be. I saw something traumatic. I did the check-in that I had to, but not actually trying to get the benefits from therapy, or if something does happen, learning how it could impact you in the future, but instead just denying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A huge part, honestly, is being prepared. It's completely underrated. Our mental health, system as a whole is much more reactive than proactive.
Yep. Yep.
But it's for certain, it's a difficult, thing with no easy solutions. But I think there are broad strokes that we can take that would improve things, such as focusing on the mental health of officers, specializing on the responsibilities of officers, ending qualified immunity would probably go a long way, honestly.
I still think that, I mean, maybe this is just me because I have only recently found out that NYPD has $5 billion a year in funding, but
yeah,
I mean, yes, there's crimes, especially in New York City. It's a big city, and I'm sure they have a lot of resources, with computers and uniforms and everything. But I wonder, if they have $5 billion, how come there can't be more resources put into, say, mental health, whether it's in the police department or even within the communities? Because every once in a while you're going to get certain cases where there will be a person who is who might be acting up, but that could be from their mental health, issues that they're going through. But you, as an officer going into these situations, you might not even know that person even has a mental health issues. So that's like another thing too. Is like, in addition to also helping police officers with mental health, I think there's a whole separate section of just regular day folks who don't get either the proper treatment, the proper medication that they need for their mental health. So when there is a mental breakdown or when something happens to them, they might get violent. So there might be some cases where a police officer may feel the need to fire their weapon, but if that could be prevented too, before the police officer even shows up. So investing in social workers, investing into psychologists. Oh, thank you. Go, Jen. Thank you. People used to call me that in middle school. When you have that, I think that makes it a lot smoother on both ends, supporting the police where they need to, and then also supporting the people who've just for the longest time had a lack of resources from day one. And then when they get a little bit of resources, boom, it gets hit again, whether it's through a racial group of domestic terror, or whether it's from the economy, or whether it's from the war on drugs. It just keeps happening again and again. So you can never fully build that infrastructure if it keeps getting destroyed again and again and again by our government. And that.
Well, it's a fun fact that it's not really a fun fact, but it's the fact that second most deaths wrongful deaths at an officer's hand are people who are, not non-neurotypical and everything. So you got people with autistic with mental retardation, Down syndrome, bipolar, so many other things. They're right behind blacks as far as wrongful deaths by officers. Yeah. So it's making having officers who are trained to notice stuff like that and de-escalate from that is another thing that needs to be looked out for, because I don't really yes, right now, Black Lives Matter and everything, because until Black Lives Matter, no lives matter. But in a way, it's the same with people with who are non-neurotypical. Our lives matter as well, and police officers need to realize that, because we're right up there with the same numbers of wrongful deaths, because officers don't know how to treat us, just like they don't know how to treat and help black people in a lot of the ways, and it's just insanity. And I know it's putting a lot in officers, but I think that's why we need to honestly pay them more, make it a harder job to get. We need better people, and just constantly always be evaluating and looking for ways to improve for every officer.
I'm glad you said that, man. Paying officers more would help attract better people and also help replace the bad ones when you discover that they're bad, Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. It's something that we should probably talk about more, for how highly skilled and demanding of a job that it is. With a few exceptions, they're criminally underpaid, in my opinion, especially in the starting wages. When you stay in for a while, a lot of them get paid better, but that doesn't attract people to the job. Yeah. And when we're having a problem where fundamentally bad people are the problem, right? You want to attract better people.
Yeah.
So
it kind of goes back to, again, another reason why we need to have UBI. At least get that little bit of cushion. So maybe money doesn't have to be as big of a concern, and then you can still, and if we choose to pay the cops more, then you're going to get more people who are more legitimate, who would want to do it. And maybe if you're going to have to pay them higher, then the qualifications will, obviously will have to be a little bit higher.
So if you pay cops more, you're going to end up with less white boys with high fades. That seems to be the main issue right now. White boys with high fades who are police officers are generally tend to be racist.
With high fades.
Yeah, and we're arming and expecting these police officers to act like soldiers, and might as well train them like ones.
That's
more than a week or two of training.
So I am very not for the militarization of the police that we're encountering. You, as a whole, you want your military to, quite frankly, do the dirty work, right? The military exists at the end of the day as a lethal fighting force, That is the primary function of the military. You know, if you do not have lethality as military, then you're not the military. So the militarizing of the police, a organization, a group of people that we don't want to be lethal, quite frankly, we want them to avoid lethality at every moment. No, it's antithetical to the purpose of policing.
Yeah.
Well, first off, the militarization is happening whether or not you would like it to. I mean, there's
Yes.
cops in riot gear everywhere. And I guess when I meant more the training aspects, I guess I would argue that there's some aspects of military training that could be used and beneficial in training police officers, like training more hand-on-hand combat, training more different techniques and how to be actually tactical and engage with people, because they do end up, being hand-to-hand with suspects who are mentally unstable, and they are armed with weapons, and sometimes they're given AK-47s like soldiers are. So, they should be mentally prepared in some way for these situations and for the weapons and gear that they're given. But yeah, I do see your side that we don't need more better trained, armed people who are out killing and being racist. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, and then it also brings into, like what will police be doing in the future? So if it's what we mentioned before, like things that are not as like crazy serious, like if you have like the separate departments, as Pierce was mentioning, then you can allocate your resources properly, and those who are specialized in them they will know how to de-escalate those specific types of problems that gets handed to them, instead of it then all being under the umbrella of like police. Because right now, like a lot of people is just like, oh shoot, police, oh dang, like, so it has already created like a huge it kind of like really tarnished their name, like more so than ever before. I feel like, I mean, I still get afraid of the cops, I still do, but like
I think everyone gets afraid of the cops. I mean,
yeah, that's
the
true.
first thing they do is like, except for probably Pierce. Pierce is like, I'm more badass than you are, motherfucker. Back off.
Pierce just like, I'm chill.
I wasn't always who I am right now, and even today, it's certainly a high tension engagement and interaction is for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dang, I had a thought. Something else. Hamburgers. Oh, I remember. So another thing, like, so we talked a lot about police and like training, as well as like militarizing versus not militarizing. Specificities of police. And I think that's very, very productive and informative too. But then there's another side, which is harder. It's not something that could really be fixed immediately by law, which is just racism, the type of racism that's just in the air. Whereas like it's a type of preconceived notions that, say, a fellow American may get when they are walking down the street late at night, and say if somebody's black passing by, they clutch their purse quickly. That type of like mentality is harder to change that than just simple laws, and that will have to come with time in terms of like how we could change people's perception. But a big one is just media. The fact that media, so often when they were portray people of color, and particularly black men, so many times they're seen as thugs, they're seen as drug dealers, they're seen as gangsters, and they're not seen as much as doctors, as teachers, as positive leaders. So when you have the TV show like Cops playing on for season after season, years after years after years, like it will instill some type of image, especially for people who don't normally interact with people outside of their community. So even I can't speak on behalf of white communities, but even in like the Asian communities, like there is definitely anti-racism in certain parts of our community, and a lot of it has to do with what they see, or what they see on the television, or when they're like in the shops and they're like, oh wow, because I have experienced a robbery in my store and the person happens to be black, then their perception becomes, okay, maybe I'll be careful of every single black person that like walks into my store. So that part is going to be much harder to unlearn, which is just the quote unquote like unspoken, just like thing in the air. of just how we look at a person, and because that goes like generations upon generations.
Your point of like media and everything, that cuts both ways, because I mean, you see like young people of color who watch TV and who see these shows and everything, they see people of their same skin color doing these things, and they're like, oh, that's what we're supposed to do, and it's kind of ingrained to them kind of almost at a young age.
Yeah,
because they don't realize, until they're older, that there's like a difference in, like what's portrayed versus like reality. So
100%.
very often it's like too late.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean,
So
both of
that's
us,
why we need to fight for like a more inclusive media.
100%. That is such a big one too. Just like, we both are in entertainment and media, and we see how this is, and it's gotten a lot better. I will say it definitely has gotten a lot better in terms of diversity, but we still have a long way to go in terms of having very specific diverse voices. And media companies as well as production companies, whoever's out there, like, they need to understand that you shouldn't just fill a quota of like, okay, we got our one person of color in the show. We've made our quota. No, it's like, no, you gotta like really look into like, okay, if you're gonna have somebody of person of color on that show, which is great, do you have people who are from that like culture, from that group, that knows like the lingo, that knows kind of the backstory about this person's life? And yeah, we could argue that human beings are human beings, so it wouldn't really matter, but it does, because there will be certain nuances. Even for me, when I had this one small role on a TV show, and I had to speak with a Chinese accent because this dude was from China, right? But then a lot of the stuff that he was saying, I was like, you would never even say this, like, no matter if it's in Chinese or in English. But one of the writers on there was like apparently like Japanese American, but they only put that person in there for the quota aspect.
Yeah.
To save face. It wasn't real, because if I was reading the script, I'd be like, you guys have no idea what you guys are talking about. So because there's such a misrepresentation of different groups of people, it makes us look at them in a certain way. And that's regardless of whatever ethnicities that you are. Like, the media has a huge role in terms of shaping our perceptions of people. So when you have, and if there's a documentary called 13th, which is on Netflix, and it talks about the 13th Amendment on slavery. So what happened was that, like, once slavery got abolished, there's this clause that states that no one's allowed to be treated as a slave unless you're a criminal. So right when there was emancipation and when slaves were free, they were like, okay, we got to arrest as many black people as we can. And so
you got the invention of the chain gang and everything out of that, where they would like still work the fields and everything, but chain together as criminals.
Yeah, and then they could do whatever they want, and that's why we have, for example, like private prisons, and then they could do whatever they want, and they could work with corporations to build whatever things they want for free, at the expense of these bodies that are just there. So when you have that, and then when you have the media constantly feeding people that, okay, the perception of these types of people is that they're criminals and that they're rapists and that they're all on drugs. Watch out for them. If that's what you're feeding the American people every single day for the past 100 years, that just becomes so systemic and ingrained in our
It's
mind.
still systemic in today's media. I mean, I won't say like who, but I was on a show for a brief period of time where the showrunner literally said, you hire one black, you hire one Asian, you get a whole bunch of Jews to make it funny, and then you put a white person in charge. And that's the way he set up his rooms. And it was...
Sounds like Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, that was essentially his rooms and everything. And I'm like, I feel blessed as hell, like, looking back on it, that I got fired out of that situation, because it was wrong, But at the same time...
Your talents are way better than that, man.
You need the job, but at the same time, it's like, it's just wrong that they hire that way,
Yeah.
But that's the thought process. And like, this guy is at this point probably a billionaire as far as like residuals and stuff go, and it's just insane. That's his thought process for every successful show that he's done, and he's done a lot of them. So,
and the crazy part is that he's not the only one either. There's other people who are in pretty high up position also think that way. So this is yes, it is Black Lives Matter, but it's more than just Black Lives Matter. And it's not about black versus white is even more than just blue lives matter versus black lives matter. It's like oppressed versus oppressor. We're like in 2020, in this year of perfect 2020 vision, we see like the world is starting to see a lot of these problems that America has. Some of these problems that for many years our government has hushed away, made it quiet. It's all being exposed now. I think this year might be the year.
Man.
We're definitely seeing change out of this.
There's already changes that have been making. So I'm happy to see that there are changes. Like NASCAR just announced that they're taking out all of their Confederate flags. I thought that was pretty big.
That is honestly something I'm gonna like tell my kids, dude. You know how like no, like that is honestly it's such a big deal, but it's also such a sign that times are changing. So let me give you an example.
This or know of this, but sounds like it's gonna hurt their bottom line tremendously.
I think they'll manage. I think they'll be all right. You're right. Some people will be turned off, but I think for the most part, people really just like the cars to go really, really fast. Dude. So it's important to recognize like symbols often mean different things to different people, right? So I'll give you an example. In 1990s, out in California, you see a guy wearing a Confederate flag shirt. It doesn't mean that he's a racist. It probably means that he likes NASCAR. 2020, you see someone wearing a Confederate shirt in Virginia, and you think, that guy's probably an asshole and a racist, right? So things change, and
I'm a really
it's
big
important
Dukes of
that
Hazzard fan.
we recognize that, and NASCAR did recognize that. Like, props honestly to them. I'm 100% surprised and blown away because that flag, quite frankly, does mean something different than what I'm imagining the better of them that a lot of them have thought in the past, And then you take it further back in the past, and we have slavery. So
pretty much what they actually were fighting for in the South.
Right.
I was so surprised about that because my perception of NASCAR was that,
My question
was
is
those with Confederate flags,
My question is, so are the reruns of Dukes of Hazzard just gone forever?
Probably, yeah. The Dukes of Hazzard are no more.
That's like an honestly completely mindless form of entertainment. Just like seeing a car like jump.
Nah, man. I mean, sorts of things change, right? So what was harmless fun back then is now today something that's insensitive. For better or for worse.
I'm just gonna miss Uncle Jesse's words of wisdom at the end of every episode, and the voice of Waylon Jennings.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, no, that's
Hazard, Kaylee. Either the TV show or the movie or any of it.
No, I don't.
No,
movies are complete shit. Don't watch them ever.
I've only seen one of the movies. With
the TV shows were the shit. With what's his name, his Uncle Jesse. He was just perfect. Right on there. Just his words of wisdom and everything, the way he spoke, and it was heartwarming for Uncle Jesse. So.
Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of
not the Willie Nelson Uncle Jesse. That one was just a stoner drunk, but the OG Uncle Jesse from the Dukes of Hazzard. That was a pretty good That was a pretty good role model. It was a pretty good grandfather figure for a TV show.
I haven't seen it. Still a lot of shows I gotta see.
You'll never see it nowadays, man.
Probably not. It's okay though. It's okay. There's still a lot of other amazing shows out there.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
One day at a time.
Rob, you tell me I'm putting you on blast here. Are you you got any projects lined up for your film career?
Do I got any projects lined up?
Yeah.
I did a web series that's now all our episodes are on YouTube, so there's that. I think that was nice, and I released a music video, so that was pretty cool too.
So analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah, analysis paralysis. That's the name of the web series. Yeah. Check it out, guys, if you get the chance. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
So
do
I
that
did
like
that.
chest bump thing at all in it, like where you just like make your chest move?
Oh, I wish I had that moment for a chest pump. But hey,
Okay, he's
Kaylee,
back.
welcome back. What up? So yeah, that's pretty much about it. I did write a song though. I did write a song, and if you guys are up for it, I would like to show it to you guys.
I'm always game.
Take it away, Rob.
You know how to do the screen share?
Okay, cool. So,
It's a mini
Myself.
Hawaiian guitar.
You can bigabize yourself on one of those buttons on the bottom if you want.
like a what?
We don't have the same
Below
buttons here
the-
at Pierce.
The 4 boxes, you'll see a button to make yourself take up the whole screen or more of the screen.
Well, I
He
don't see
doesn't
that,
have the
so
same
it's
thing.
okay.
Or just roll with it. It's fine.
Let's just roll with it. So, in lieu of the times, wrote a little song. So, for you guys as well as for everybody else that's watching, hope everybody's safe, healthy, and if you guys are in a stressful situation, know that it's gonna be okay. Like everyone's going through a lot of trouble, so hopefully this, would make you guys feel a little bit okay. So here we go. Sometimes I wonder what is going on in this world. There is a reason why we're shouting in anger, but I hope you know we only mean well. 'Cause our skin may be different, but we bleed the same. And I'm tired of running away. Even if we have distance, I will love you in vain. And I promise one day we'll see change. Oh, 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 Hey, break off the chains so we could make all the change. In the end, break off the chains so we could make all the change. In the end, break off the chains so we could make all the things. In the end, where do we stand? Sometimes I wonder what is going on in this world? This world. That is all.
I don't know how to clap on here.
Thank you.
That was beautiful,
It's
man.
clapping, actually. You can't hear me clapping. Okay.
So yeah, that was a song. I worked on this song like sometime last week. So I was like, you know what? I want to share it. I want to share it with you guys and whoever else is on the internet. So my netizens out there.
But if anyone is on the internet, we haven't seen as many comments this week pop up across the bottom. Either Pierce isn't doing his job or no one's watching.
Yeah.
That was beautiful,
Yeah.
dude. That was
Oh,
beautiful.
thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, there's in a time of a lot of confusion, a big thing that I think about a lot is, and I'm sure a lot of people think about this too, which is, what's my role? Like, what could I do to help out in the cause? What is the cause? Am I doing enough? And sometimes if we think too much about it, we could get overwhelmed. We could put a lot on ourselves. We feel like the whole weight of the world's on us for that. And so I've had a lot of those moments too. And I'm like, what more can I do? What more can I do? And then it just came down to me myself and being like, what am I good at? What could I use my talents, my stories to amplify the current existing cause? How could I help out them using my knowledge and what I know to do that? So for me, it was like, okay, you know what? It will be through art, it'll be through making videos, it'll be making music and keep spreading the message. But for anybody out there who is feeling stuck or is feeling like, you know, man, like I don't know what to do. There's so much happening. Know that it's okay, and know that everybody is made in this world to do something. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of a while to figure out. But now that you see that there's movement happening, if you do have questions, you know, you can always ask people, ask friends, like how to get involved. And if you want to do things on your own, by all means do that. But don't need to beat yourself over about having to do something one certain way. Everybody has a purpose and everybody has this. So, yeah.
Couldn't have
Thank you,
said it any
Natalia.
better myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yay.
Before we
Love or hate.
close it out, we're gonna bring
Oh,
John
he's
Marco.
actually here. What?
Yo, John Marco.
So,
Hi, Kaylee. Good to see you.
How are you?
And I just left my friend's birthday Zoom thing.
How was it?
How's that?
It was very nice.
was it good?
It was super lit. He noticed we had because he has a free Zoom account, so it was 40 minutes long. And then I asked him how much time is left, and he's like, "Oh, 30 seconds." So we sang him a very quick happy birthday.
It's cute.
Yeah.
All of 80 minutes. Nice.
All right, guys, let's get started. Let's go.
Oh, we have another hour in this?
So we're talking about burgers.
Uh,
I was talking about burgers with my friend too. We compare it to like the ceviche of Peruvian food. It's like the one thing you can't fuck up when you try it at a restaurant.
I don't know. I've had some pretty.
I've
with
actually-
like burgers.
yeah, I'm with Jason on that. I've had definitely people fuck it up before.
Yeah, you can fuck up a hamburger. You overcook
Exactly.
that
No, but that
something
should be the one thing you don't mess up at like a American restaurant. That should be your baseline metric.
Yeah. If the burger's
It's like,
good, you're a decent
Make a
restaurant.
burger.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, I have to go to Five Guys at some point. It's been a minute.
No Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Ugh.
No
I
Five
mean,
Guys.
I'm not in and out here, man. I gotta support my local GDP and stuff.
Too greasy. Find a local burger joint. You're in freaking Miami. There has to be like a good local burger joint. Actually, you're in fucking
All the
Miami. Go
local
get a
stuff is
Cubano.
Hispanic and Cuban food, all right, man?
Get a Cubano, man. Those things are awesome.
Oh, yeah, I had one last week. They're great.
Yeah, they're like the second best sandwich in the world.
Next
what?
to
Next
Oh.
to you.
I
You know,
really
it
like
definitely
Philly
making me
cheesesteak.
hungry, that's for sure.
yeah.
Philly cheesesteak's nice though. I haven't had Philly cheesesteak in a long time.
Yeah.
I haven't had a burger in a long time.
What? You're in New York. That's like a mecca.
Yeah, but I'm not. Actually, no. Nachos. Actually, I didn't have a burger.
Better than me right now.
So
Now I want nachos.
Yang 2020. Yang 2024.
It's still a possibility he gets nominated for the floor. I'm like holding out all hope.
Hey,
Hey, man, you got
it might
1%.
be in 2021, mayor of New York City, right?
True.
That could also be an option. That could
Did
also
you
be
see
an-
how he took fourth place in like what was it, Georgia?
Georgia, yeah.
Yeah. And what was it, third place in New Mexico?
Warren. Oh, you mean the state? Sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, in the state. He took like third place in New Mexico too, didn't he?
He did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you did.
It was insane. It was insane. Like he's so Gang's die hard.
Yeah, I'm still gonna write him in for the New York primary, even if his name's not there. I'll still write him
What
in.
district are you in? Are you going to vote for Herzog? We have like, I think 5 Humanity First candidates running in New York on various levels.
I was running New York City. He's not in my district though, so I don't know if I'll see his name on the ballot.
No, you won't.
Yeah, I probably won't.
I'll check for who you can vote for. After Jermaine's win last night, we were very excited. We have a lot of momentum for supporting down ballot candidates now.
Jermaine smashed the guy.
He did.
I was blown away.
Wasn't even close. The guy had been an incumbent for decades, and Jermaine beat him with a 52-point lead. Like in politics, a 52% lead? Oh my goodness.
Like when I first saw the results come in, I had that like the Keenan and Kel character like reaction, like
You have to have a premium like Pornhub like account to be able to get like that type of black man spanking a white man on the internet joy.
Yeah.
Like,
Mad
that was
props
like,
though. Congratulations
It
to
was
you.
beautiful.
Very, very amazing. Great
That's
news.
fair. Congrats, Jermaine Johnson. Well done.
Yes, yes. Amazing. Future to UBI.
All right.
Change.
Glad you were able to join us for the end of it there, GPS. I recommend you play it back and hear literally just before you got back in. Rob played a very beautiful song, you know?
Oh, for sure.
That's fun.
Yeah, he
It's fun
wrote
to
it
share.
and he dedicated it just to you, man. It was great.
Yeah, I dedicate to you. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? Like, I still have to. I gotta do it for the fans. I gotta do it for our entourage. You know.
It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
we're gonna
Being entourage here.
barely miss you.
And Kaylee, thank you for coming.
Great to be here.
Woo!
It's great to
Taylor.
see you all again and to meet you, Rob.
Absolutely.
Great to meet you too.
So before we go, we should like totally go around and say favorite burger topping.
Favorite
Bacon.
burger topping?
Yeah.
Blue cheese.
Said bacon.
Yeah.
You too.
So
Bacon.
2
Grilled
bacons,
mushrooms.
blue cheese, grilled mushrooms. I've got to go with onions.
Actually, no, I take it back. Buffalo sauce. Take it back.
Buffalo sauce on a
Spicy
burger?
buffalo sauce. Hands down. Best thing to put on a hamburger.
That just seems like a crime against
Okay.
humanity, man.
Oh, it's
It's like got to
phenomenal.
be a violation. of
Especially when you add the
human
spicy
dimension.
buffalo sauce with blue cheese. Boom.
On a
No, I
hamburger.
just get wings.
I've got to go with cheese. That's like
I
the
had a
ultimate
feeling
of all
you'd go
burger
for
toppings. Just like regular cheese, like just good old American cheese, cheddar cheese. Just
Just
cheese
like-
is a blanket statement. Salsa. on a burger?
Salsa.
Okay, now we're getting crazy.
I think salsa on burger would be pretty damn good. Not gonna lie. They get the
Oh, a
crunchy
nice
taste to it.
fried egg. Mm.
Oh, fried
Fried
egg.
egg.
Oh, yeah,
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 fried
fried
egg.
egg.
Phenomenal.
That's a good
For
one.
sure.
The positioning of the yolk on the burger is very important, though. You kind of want it more towards the center. When you do eventually get to that spot, you have enough like space for it to spread out a little bit, without at the same time overcoming your hands on the burger and just like burning your fingers.
In my hometown of Walnut Creek, there is this like little shithole diner that I can't for the life of me remember the name of, but they somehow managed to put an egg inside the burger. So like when you bite into the burger, the yolk just explodes in your mouth. It's insanity.
Oh
Like I
god!
don't even know how they do it, but it was like
It's like a
freaking
cream filled
phenomenal.
donut, but with a burger and eggs.
Yeah, it's like a jelly. Yeah,
Heart attack. Get it.
and it just comes with like the perfect amount of cheese. Yeah. Earlier we had the old discussion like how much is too much cheese on a burger. Like I'm a big fan of just like the 1 slice per 8-ounce patty. So, but like out on Brown was like you got to have at least 2 slices per 8 ounces, and I'm like no.
I wouldn't mind like a pizza cut styled stuffed crust like bun on a burger.
Okay.
You can't tell this is what I really want to order for dinner tonight because I've been thinking about this for like ever.
I'm a huge advocate of stuffed crust pizza, man. That'll be on my
Pizza is
platform on
awesome.
the office.
Stuffed crust pizza. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if it should all be Pizza Hut style. Like some of the mom and pop chains do like better stuffed crust. Like they just like have a better quality of cheese in there. It's like somehow runnier and more like liquidy and less viscosity. Because like if you don't eat the crust first of a Pizza Hut like stuffed crust pizza, like the cheese just becomes hard inside the crust and it's no longer ooey gooey and pulley. So you're like, But like there are some like mom and pop joints who somehow put like nacho cheese in it, and it's like just bam.
Pizza.
All right. Well, on that note, I am absolutely starving. Kaylee, I didn't hear your answer. Before I go, I gotta hear it.
For what?
Favorite topping on a hamburger?
I
You said
answered
it.
first. It was bacon.
Yeah, Robin her
Mhm.
bacon.
That's just me
You're
being
right.
bad. Now I feel bad.
You tried to put her on the spot, and like
Me and Rob are in agreement.
Well, at least
Yeah.
I'm-
Bacon.
Bacon is number 2.
All right.
Then like grilled onions is number 3.
Thank you, guys. Definitely time for me to
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Hi guys.
Thank you guys
Everybody-
for watching.
Peace. We love you all.
Great, safe, happy day.
Bye.